Am I supposed to be impressed that they won in 6 games versus the Senators?
No, you don't have to do anything. But like, again, Leaf fans are not overly concerned about what the rest of the world is thinking about them.
First, let's talk about the Toronto Maple Leafs getting by and closing out the Ottawa Senators in 6 games. This was difficult. They went up 3-0, lost the last 2 games, and had to go to Ottawa in an attempt to try to fend off a Game 7. I think we all agree if this went 7, Ottawa was going to win. I also think we all agree Toronto is the better team here. Mm-hmm. So when you get to Game 7, you're the better team thing matters a whole lot less, especially when you were the one who had a 3-0 series lead and chunked it. So I say credit where it is due. I saw some resolve out of the Maple Leafs last night. They take a 2-0 lead in this game in the first period. Auston Matthews scores right away. And I was thinking of you the whole time when they were up 2-0. We weren't texting much. I'm always thinking of you, buddy. We weren't texting much, but I was like, if I'm Pete, I'm thinking this is beautiful. This is just going to make it worse. There's so much time for the Senators to come back, and the Senators did come back. The Leafs stopped scoring. Senators end up tying the game in the third period with, I want to say, 7:20 to play. The script was it was too perfect. It was too delicious. It looked great. And then, of all people, Max Pacioretty, who, if you didn't know, plays in the NHL and for the Toronto Maple Leafs with the game winner.
As of recently.
And that's all she wrote.
Yeah, hasn't been playing in the NHL much recently.
Yeah, scratched to start the series. I saw Dom Lucian before the game was like, why the fuck is Max Pacioretty in the lineup? So the guy wearing 67 scores, moves on. I was eating it up after that game tying goal because it was a horrible goal to give up. And I was like, oh, baby, it's all happening. It's all happening. They respond. But like ultimately, and I'll get into like this conversation with Bunkis. I'm trying to save some of my thoughts. But like, am I supposed to be impressed?
That's a good question. How are you supposed to be impressed? Have demons been exorcised?
And like demons might have been exorcised, but they created those demons.
Right. These are, and granted, there are teams that right now would love to have say they exorcised demons they created that are now eliminated. So good for them.
They definitely did not exorcise any demons, in my opinion.
I think we had the bigger conversation with Bunkis, but I do not consider demons exorcised if I'm the Maple Leafs. I'll say in one game I saw resolve. I think that they're more of adults than we give this Leafs group credit for. I still take this Leafs team seriously. They're not going to beat the Panthers, but I still take them seriously. Good for them and for showing that resolve. I say good on them for that. Okay, let's bring in our dear friend from Sportsnet and 590 The Fan in Toronto. We've had him this series so far. He's had some back and forth with Pete. It's the great JD Bunkis. How are you, buddy?
Petey. It's great to see you today, brother. So I saw your video as well, right? Like you went out and you did this thing about Leaf fans and how they celebrate too soon and all this other bullshit. I'll tell you this right now. You celebrated too early as well. You couldn't wait for Game 3. You couldn't wait for a Game 7. You didn't stay quiet in the weeds. You did the exact same thing that you were accusing Leaf fans of.
I didn't need to because you took a victory lap after Game 3.
And you took a victory lap after Game 5. Yes, that was a victory lap.
That was not a victory lap.
That wasn't a victory lap?
I know this is a biased panel because I do a show with you guys. Does that constitute as a victory lap?
So I think, again, and I'm very experienced doing what you're doing, which is just saying it doesn't matter what I'm saying. All I'm saying is that you're wrong. That's what Pete was doing, I think. I think Pete was saying, you're celebrating too soon. I'm celebrating that you're looking bad right now, but I'm not necessarily celebrating that you lost. I'm celebrating that you've got egg on your face and my face is egg-free.
Also, there was plenty of Leafs fans that were like, who amongst us is taking a victory lap? And I just dropped in the video of you on your appearance on this show. And they were like, fuck, yeah, that guy's an idiot.
You know what, though? Yeah. Hey, guess what? Anybody that wants to call me an idiot, who gives a shit? The Leafs won. The Leafs got it done. Ultimately, what I said came to fruition, which is the Toronto Maple Leafs had 4 opportunities to close this thing out. And this is like, so I talked about this a little bit on my show this morning, but I really do believe it. Toronto Maple Leafs fans are the only ones in the entire sport that are not supposed to celebrate the highs, of which they have had so little. Like, this is a team that has not won since 1967. This is a team that has won 2 playoff series over the span of 9 seasons with a core that was genuinely a implied promise of you will win a Stanley Cup. Have we gotten ahead of ourselves many, many times? Yeah, absolutely. Chris Versteeg is a regular on my show. We talk about this often. When Toronto got that rookie core together, what happened? Immediately, people were like, is this the new Blackhawks? Before they had even won a playoff series. It was insane. The hype train got off the rails. That's what happens in a city where the team is covered this way. But it's like Toronto fans take it on both ends. It's always like, you haven't done anything. You haven't won. You guys suck. You're this tortured franchise. And then they win a couple of games and they celebrate it the way that any normal fans do. Like, go look at Edmonton right now. Go look at any square where they're winning a playoff series or they're winning a couple of games or they're getting back into it. What do? You celebrate. You enjoy the highs of playoff hockey. Every market does it. Leaf fans are no different. A team goes up 3-0. You think you got a series in the bag, regardless of whatever ghosts or demons you might have. And like, newsflash to the other Canadian teams, ain't nobody up here won since 1993 either. It's not like the Oilers are covered in all this glory because they made a Stanley Cup final a couple of times in between then. Like, this is just the way fans are. And Leaf fans, for whatever reason, I think I have my reasons, in which they are many. It's mostly derives from jealousy of hockey fans that don't get coverage the way that the Maple Leafs do, which is like they're in the spotlight all the time. Like you in Boston, if you turn on WEEI, how much Bruins talk are you ever getting? 0. How many Bruins articles do you get a week? 2? Like, how many people are on the beat there? 7, 8? Like, it's completely non-comparable to Toronto. So you get this amount. It's actually like the only inverse for the States in terms of hockey coverage. Like, we get all your news. We know everything that's going on politically in the United States. You have 0 idea of what's going on here politically, outside of maybe there's an election or whatever. But the Leafs are just everywhere. So every other fan base becomes a part of it. And that's why that hate grows. But Leafs fans didn't do anything that was like outside of the ordinary of just normal fandom. They're no different. They don't celebrate too early. They're just fans.
I also think that there is Leafs fans are not comparable to other fans also because of the shit that they've been through, which is the reason why you shouldn't be celebrating and bringing brooms to games after taking a 3-0 series lead. Like, you should be self-aware of the ghosts and the demons that still haunt you. And so the lack of self-awareness is what's crazy to me.
So your contention is that we should just be walking around the city with our heads down like, oh boy, I think that you should be
cautiously optimistic.
I think that you should honestly be waiting for the other shoe to drop, because it always does. The last time, I mean, people say 1967 all the time.
Yeah.
The Beatles hadn't put out Sgt. Pepper's the last time the Maple Leafs won the Stanley Cup. Sgt. Pepper's is discussed now as like the oldest thing in the world. Like, people did some mean shit to Jesus, and then the Beatles did Sgt. Pepper's, and then like they're like the Little Rock Nine, like big major history moments, and now here we are. Like that is viewed as the forever ago thing. So every time they've gotten close, and this is a team that hasn't gotten out of the second round since 2002. Yes, I hate to. I know I like to side with Pete here. You should be waiting for the other shoe to drop. And I think there is a point at which you can say, oh my God, we're doing it. And I think it's when you get to a conference final. So you don't have to be holding your head down, but I do agree with Pete. You have to be cautiously optimistic and doing the kind of, because we did this in 2004 as Red Sox fans of like, whoa, it looks good. How are they going to break our heart this time? And then once they got to the World Series, it was like, they're going to beat the Cardinals. Yeah. That rules. Let's have fun with this. You guys aren't there yet.
So Leaf fans absolutely do exactly what you're talking about. Like, there's a reason why I started my show. Like, they're still up 3-2 in a series. And there's a reason why you saw the energy that you saw on that postgame show. There's a reason why you got the reactions from some Leaf fans where they're like, why the fuck is this idiot even celebrating up 3-0? That's a huge portion of this fan base. We live in fear. And what I'm saying is, I hate that mentality. I think that you should just enjoy it, and you should take the good with the good, because you have no good. When people, like, I think I said this before to you guys, but when people are like, act like you've been there before, it's like, fucking, we were never here before. We suck. We are just the epitome of disappointment. Like, you can talk about Cubs or Red Sox or all these other tortured teams. This is completely non-comparable. Like, the NHL had no salary cap up until what, 2004? And the Leafs couldn't buy themselves a Stanley Cup despite them being the New York Yankees. You know how fucking embarrassing that is? Like, what a disaster it is to have more money than God and not be able to buy yourself a Stanley Cup. Like, everybody that is at least around my age, right? You know, you're in your 30s, you have experienced nothing but pure, unadulterated pain with this hockey team. And so when they do something positive, when they win a hockey game, when things do start to feel different, and that's why, like, I do think our barometer as fans gets totally shit on in a very strange way. Do I think Leaf fans are good hockey fans? No, not necessarily. I think that they are they are dialed in locally, and they're not necessarily staying up late at night in most cases and watching Edmonton Oilers games, right? Like, yeah, the odd one, but they're not national hockey fans. They're more regional, almost like a baseball fan would be. But they know their team because they die for this team. They invest so much with this team. Every holiday gift you get is a Leafs thing. A celebration for you is to go down and get tickets to go watch what has been mostly like a dog shit, disappointing product that costs you like $1 million just to get in the building and $20 for a light beer, right? Just to have the privilege of sitting in a quiet arena and normally watching them lay an egg. These fans, and myself included, who have watched this season, have recognized that there are different elements about this team. The guys that are around them, that is why they won this series. The blue line is different. The way they defend the middle of the ice is different. The goaltending, even though there were a couple of shaky goals from Stolarz in the series overall, that's going to happen over the course of 6 games. It's different. The question still remains, can the star guys, the core 4 guys, actually do something different? They got bought time, but nah, I love the celebrations. I love the being up high. I hate walking around with just like doom and gloom all the time. That to me is like, fuck that. Then you're letting other people win and you're letting other people dictate the way that you feel as the fan. Fuck those people. Fuck that idea.
I asked this question to DJ at the beginning of the show.
Yeah.
I'll ask you, am I supposed to be impressed that they won in 6 games versus the Senators?
No, you don't have to do anything. But like, again, Leaf fans are not overly concerned about what the rest of the world is thinking about them. They're obsessed with just what is happening within their own bubble. Like, that's the thing. Like, we did the Don Draper analogy, right? I don't think about you at all. That's Leaf fans to the rest of the hockey world. Leaf fans don't give a shit what's going on with any other team. They're not like worried about another fan base winning or wrapping themselves up into this bubble. We know we're the alpha and the omega when it comes to conversations around the game of hockey. And so we're just worried about what's going on with us. So if you're not impressed, okay, like, Leaf fans are just happy that they got it done. Are there some trouble signs? That game 5 was an absolute trouble sign. Is Florida the favorite in this series without question? Yeah, they're the Stanley Cup champions. And like, I think you guys would agree that they're the best team in hockey, right?
I think right now,
yeah.
Right. But would you also agree that in the Eastern Conference, out of all these teams, like when you say you're not impressed, that the overall body of work of the just 2025 season, take the ghosts out of it, the Toronto Maple Leafs represent their scariest order?
I'm a 2025 Leafs guy.
Yeah,
I've been for most of the season.
But the book on the Leafs has always been, okay, you show it to me during the regular season, show it to me during the playoffs. And I feel like we have not learned much of anything about this team during that first round series other than they can convince us in short order that nothing's changed.
No, I don't think so. I'm telling you, like, I really think that the blue line is completely different. Like, years past, this was a group that had Timothy Liljegren in there, who they were scratching after game 2 because he couldn't play with any physicality. What was Ilya Lyubushkin yesterday in that Stars game? -5?
Well, he did like kind of score a goal.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think he finished with a lot of dash beside his name. There's a huge difference with Toronto's blue line than what they've had in the past. Like, this was a team where, and Luke Schenn played well for them, but we were talking ourselves into Luke Schenn being the essentially number 2 defenseman on this team. This was TJ Brody all washed up on this team. This was Ron Hainsey at 39 years old after a cup run with the Pittsburgh Penguins on this team. What you have right now is legitimately 3 pairings that can split up 20 minutes of ice time each. And you're not going to feel like there's a huge drop off between any of them. Like, they have Chris Tanev and Jake McCabe. They are a legitimate shutdown pairing. Look at the way that they played last night. Like, just objectively, whenever a puck goes into a corner and Chris Tanev goes back to retrieve it, what happens? There's a breakout the other way. The cycle gets killed. You've seen a lot of Brandon Carlo. Do I wish that maybe he was a little bit meaner? Do I wish that maybe as a 6'8" mutant, he had a bit more of a shot? Sure. Is he a perfect player? No, absolutely. But he's got a great stick and he's good at keeping guys to the outside. That was the theme of this series, is like, look at the shot totals for Ottawa throughout this sucker. Every game was scratching and clawing to get to 20 of them. And that continues to be the formula for the Toronto Maple Leafs. It's like, can you get some timely goal scoring? Can your power play show up? Which, by the way, it did. They scored a power play goal for the first time since 2018, Pete. So if you want to talk about, hey, power play goal, an elimination game, 2018 is the last time that they had an elimination game power play goal. They did that. They went 5 of 9 through the first couple of games in the series on the power play. Their blue line is better. Their goaltending was actually better in a series than the other team. Like, there are absolutely markers that this team is different. It's the question.
We talked about the power play, though, the last time we talked, and it was just that Ottawa was a fucking disaster on the PK. Like, once they figured that out, and once Ullmark started playing well, like, that was my path to you when you were like, what are the reasons do you believe that Ottawa can come back in this series? Those two things were front and center as to why Ottawa won 2 games.
Right. But when Toronto won those games, they converted on the power play. They got timely saves. They played good team defense, and they were the better coach team. And so that now becomes the question in this Florida series. Like, to your point about nothing has changed, the only area where that is the case is this series now becomes a true focal point when it comes to the star players. This is now a Morgan Rielly, Auston Matthews, William Nylander, Mitch Marner series. Because if those guys can't be impactful in this series, then everything from Ottawa doesn't matter one iota. It just doesn't. There's nothing from this series that Leaf fans are taking from it and saying, well, now we're convinced that there is a proof of concept that these guys can win. The Florida series is going to be the true measuring stick as to whether or not people feel like they are trying to build a Stanley Cup contender, because that ultimately is the goal for this franchise.
Yeah, I mean, like, I feel like the Ottawa was probably the weakest of first-round opponents that you could have had. And
weaker than Montreal, weaker than, like, New Jersey.
Well, you lost to Montreal in the bubble series.
Yeah, for sure. But I just mean, like, this year. Like, again, we're taking other years out of it. This season, I think that Ottawa was a better team than at least those two groups. I would actually say that in terms of, like, being impressed with a team, if you were just, again, looking at this without just, hey, strength of opponent, whatever, who of the most impressive teams been in the first round? I don't know. Toronto's definitely, to me, in the top 5.
I don't know. I agree with you that Florida is going to be like the real test. And how terrifying is it that you're heading into a second round series and Brad Marchand's going to be there?
That part sucks. And especially since Brad Marchand, there was like that little moment after he came back from the injury where he wasn't scoring any goals and he didn't really look like a good fit with the team. And maybe he was a little washed. And I was thinking to myself about Steven Stamkos, right? In the offseason, they walk away from him and everybody shits on Brisebois, but then it turns out to be unquestionably the right call, and how everyone was shitting all over Cam Neely in Boston for letting Marchand go, even though he came back hat in hand with the lower contract offer, but he just didn't look like himself. And even for Team Canada, I think that most Canadians would say, as great as he was from a locker room energy vibe, he was one of Canada's least impactful forwards from basically the first game onwards. And he just didn't look like himself. He looked like an easy bubble guy for the Olympic team. And watching those Panthers Lightning games, it's like, he's just back. He's just Brad Marchand in the worst way. So yeah, this Florida group, they're as scary as they come. They're as deep as they come. They're favorites for a reason. I think that they're the best team in hockey. I think that if they beat the Toronto Maple Leafs, they're going to go on and win the Stanley Cup. But, I got to tell you, this is the perfect test for this team. Like, play a good team. Be better than a good team. And if you can do that, everything is kind of validated with this group. And honestly, if they can get through them, I'm really not going to be too fearful of whatever lies in front of them in the Eastern Conference.
I agree with that.
I would agree with that.
Demon's not exercised right now, but I think that if they beat Florida, then you have to take them seriously. I mean, I take them seriously now anyway, but if they beat Florida, then you're I think they would beat Washington.
I mean, that is
I'll
the
tell you
worst.
that. I don't know if they beat
worst
Carolina, but they beat Washington.
Worst possible matchup from a hockey standpoint and like a mental warfare standpoint is Florida. If you get past Florida, then I'm truly, truly worried that this year might be different.
And I'll say this series is like, people will say like, oh, well, that series was their Stanley Cup. Leafs, let this series be your Stanley Cup, because it gets a lot easier and more doable once you get, I don't know, and then like, I don't know, make the fucking series after that your Stanley Cup and keep doing that. Like, treat this like this is the biggest moment in franchise history, because at least in my lifetime, like this would be the biggest. This would be the biggest thing they've done.
Yes, unquestionably, and that's what I'm trying to say to you guys is like, they didn't exercise the demons with that win over the Ottawa Senators. They were the favorites. I don't think that Ottawa found their playoff legs until probably game 3. Like game 1, they were all over the place, taking shitty penalties, right? Like, look how different Brady Tkachuk looked as that series went on. And that's probably the thing that you're happiest about if you're a Senators fan is like, and Stützle, best game 6. He was the scariest player on the ice last night without a shadow of a doubt. He was flying around the ice. You didn't exercise the demons. All you did was avoid exactly what Pete is talking about, where it's the funniest thing to the rest of the world, but the biggest nightmare for Leafs fans. The thing that I equated it to was after game 5, you were sitting on an airplane with bad turbulence. The stewardesses were told to go to their seats. The pilot was on the intercom saying, please stay seated. Well, folks, we're going to go through a little bit of a rough patch here. The seats are shaking. People are nervous. All of a sudden you're religious. And then you land, and you have this feeling when you land after a turbulent flight where you are walking through the terminal and you're like both exhausted, but exhilarated. And you're not like, you know, your life hasn't changed in any material way. You're just alive. You're just alive, and you're happy to be alive. And that's what Leaf fans are feeling today. The measuring stick series in terms of the ghosts and where they're at, this is the one.
We all silly like the mayor.